I am Lisa Bagshaw. Welcome to Boldleaps, the show that interviews creative, inspiring, successful people about the risks they've taken to pursue their dreams. And today's guest is world-famous pie artist and author, otherwise known as the Pieous, Jessica Leigh Clark-Bojin. Jessica was brought up in a richly stimulating environment with encouraging, high-achieving parents, a father who had an esteemed career in aerospace technology, and a mother who was an equally esteemed artist. She grew up with her father advising, follow your bliss and have a business plan, and her mother's advice, make a mess. This combination of science and art, entrepreneurialism and adventure has beautifully meshed in everything Jessica pursues and achieves. Although she says she was a nerd in high school, she also had an unwavering pathological confidence to try new things. Like her father, she started out in physics in university, and after a couple of years left that and played guitar in a punk band called Slag. Once that was out of her system, she got serious about art design and filmmaking and experienced enormous success in everything she did. In 2016, while making films that won awards, she started baking pies and posting them on social media. It wasn't long before her wildly creative and architecturally inspiring pies went viral. Her new career and brand, The Pieous, skyrocketed into millions of downloads, international TV appearances, online courses, best-selling cookbooks, and even Ripley's Believe It or Not. Welcome to the show, Jessica.
Nice intro.
Thank you. This is a wonderful kitchen. This is where it all started. I just love how it's designed, and it's thrilling to be where it all started.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
It's so nice to meet you. You have such an interesting combination of talent with the science and the art and the business. But what I find really interesting is your fearlessness to try new things and your willingness to fail. So I'm really excited.
Very good at that.
Yes, you are. And we can all learn so much from that. So I'm so excited about this conversation.
Me too.
So let's start in your childhood, because it's so unique to have had a science and art environment. What was that like?
It's funny, people always talk about the dichotomy between science and art, but I don't see it that way at all. I mean, science is incredibly creative and artistic and requires so much, like, you know, maybe if you're just a technician who's just like following orders or like a recipe in the lab or something like that, it might be more on the precision side. But true experimental science, especially physics that I was interested in, is, you know, that's where you find the madmen, the madwomen, the people who are willing to go out on a limb and do kooky stuff. So I think, you know, it's kind of like a circle where you might think at the bottom, like these are two opposite ends of the spectrum, but they really do meet in the middle. So I kind of think it's like a natural environment.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perception. How do you think that, as you just described, impacted sort of your approach to life?
I think the drive to explore and create and learn was always an underpinning, you know, element in everything that I did. And then the entrepreneurial, so every one of my hobbies somehow ended up turning into a job all the way along, whether I wanted it to or not. But yeah, the drive to always be making things, making discoveries, learning things, whether you are, you know, chopping up toilet paper rolls to make a little dollhouse or something like that, or, you know, mixing chemicals together to see what kind of reaction you're going to get. It's all about looking at the world around you and seeing, what if I put this piece together with this piece? What's going to happen? Let's find out. Oh my God, that blew up in my face sometimes. Literally, what did I learn from that? Let's try it again.
That is such an interesting perspective. I just love that. So let's go forward to I'm going to call it the rise, no pun intended, of the Pieous.
Nice.
So you started this because you have a sweet tooth and you wanted to create something, make something. You started making pies, and you started posting them on social media. What happened?
I was not a baker. In my family, I was the person who was told to bring the buns to gatherings, or like bring the napkins. Can you handle napkins? So the only time I'd ever used my oven was for like making polymer clay figures harden or things like that. But I made a New Year's resolution to not eat any sugar for 1 year because I love sugar a little bit too much. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I need some kind of dessert. What can I do? What can I make that has no sugar in it? And like, all right, pies. It's just fruit and just flour and water and fat. Like there's no sugar there. So I'm going to learn how to bake a pie. And my family and friends all laughed at me because they're like, you're going to go in your kitchen? Like, let's see this. So I brought it back to Crisco. I read the instructions on the back very carefully. And I'm like, I can do this. It's just science. I'm just following the instructions. It's just chemistry. I can figure this out. And the first pie went really well. And I cut out a dragon on the top, and I made it breathe in some little apple fire because I'm kind of arty and I like to, be a little extra in everything I do. And, it was delicious, and it, fit the bill. So the next week I did another one, and I did some like little owls on top, or actually I think I did like a kraken pulling a ship down. And then my family were very encouraging. I thought they were trying to, just be nice. They're like, wow, these are really good. And after I'd done, I started doing one every Sunday for my family. And after I had enough of these, I thought that my family was maybe getting a little sick of seeing all these pie pictures on Facebook, and they're saying, you should start an Instagram for this. I'm like, okay. Well, I'll get it off my Facebook feed. I'll put it on Instagram. But then after I'd done maybe 8 pies, Bored Panda reached out to me and said, we would like to do a feature on these pies that you've done because we've never seen anything like them before, which that was my first cue that something was off about this. Like, what do you mean you've never seen anything like this before? And that story went viral and got picked up by a whole bunch of different publications. And I started getting all these people reaching out, asking about my pies.
So how did you, this is crazy. How did you feel when you realized that your pies were going viral?
I thought it was bizarre. I thought it couldn't possibly be that there weren't anything else out there like that, because I was like, there's all these epic cakes, epic cookies, epic everything. Why not pies? And then I asked my buddies in the restaurant industry, why are there no epic pies? And they said, well, it has to do with the chemistry of pies, the science of it. It puffs up and distorts in the oven. It has areas of fat and water that don't take color evenly, so it's streaky. And basically, you've got a ticking clock. When the fat melts, people get frustrated because they have unexpected outcomes. They put all this work into creating these beautiful masterpieces, and then they go to bake it, and disaster happens. And I'm like, well, you just need the edible emulsifier to mix with the fat, or you just need to, pop it in the fridge. You just do this and do this, and then that would solve all those problems. And he's like, there hasn't been any bakers with that science bent and art bent to look at those problems and go, well, if we just did this differently. My lack of baking actually was an asset in that sense, because I didn't know how to do things the right way. I had the freedom to, do whatever I needed to do to get the result I wanted. And apparently I was the first person to do that.
It's incredible. You didn't know what you didn't know.
Yes.
And
a little walking Dunning-Kruger.
Yeah. And, well, we have to take a break right now. But when we come back, I'm going to ask Jessica what happened as soon as her pies went viral and what that meant for her life and her brand when we come back. Welcome back to Bold Leaps. I'm here with the incredible physicist, baker, pie scraper.
Physics fan.
Okay, so the next day you woke up. I want to bring you back to this moment where you've gone viral. Your pies on Instagram have gone viral. Uh-huh. You wake up the next day. Were you thinking, Dad told me I should have a business plan? What were you thinking the next day?
Well, I'm always looking at, I tend to be a serial creator and entrepreneur, hopping from creative opportunity to creative opportunity. It's not that I get bored of things, it's that new things keep falling in your lap when you are constantly exploring and meeting new exciting people and surrounding yourself with these cool people. And when the first time it went viral, I was like, well, that was an interesting 15 minutes. it was the second and third time that it happened again that I started realizing, oh, maybe there is something here. And that's when I actually sat down and said, all right, this is a market segment. Let's look at this logically. Is there something here? And am I having fun doing this? Do I want to? Because at the time I was an indie filmmaker. I was trying to raise funds for my next feature film. And one of the people that I had approached about raising money for my next film said, I'm not going to fund your film, but I will fund your pies. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I think you're onto something here. I want to do a Kickstarter as a test run to see if there's, to validate the market. We did that. It fully funded in the first hour. It ended up at 1,600% funded. And then Food Network called and asked if I could make videos for them. And then the Chew called and said, we want to fly out to New York to be on the show. And I suddenly realized I was having way more fun doing this than anything else that I was working on. And this was finally the thing that combined all of my loves. It had the science and the chemistry and the physics and the architecture and the art and the pop culture and the community building and the meeting new people all sort of rolled up into one flaky pastry crust. So I was like, I'm having fun. I'm making way more money doing this than anything else. So, all right, I'm going to be a baker. The woman who didn't know how to turn her oven on a couple of months ago is now a professional baker.
I know that part is really incredible. And that kind of brings me to your philosophy of learning. What is your philosophy about learning?
My philosophy of learning is take every opportunity you can to learn something new. Surround yourself with interesting people who are different from you and learn from them. Whatever they have, pull it out. I mean, share. That's part of that knowledge exchange, that transfer. But you never know what thing is going to just spark that magic for you and be the thing that launches you in the next wonderful direction. So, I was never a particularly sporty person. I decided I needed to get some exercise. So I'd take a test fencing class and learn that. And I ended up making the best friends of my life that have been lifelong friends because of that one little fencing class. Every time I've made a decision to learn something new, take a class, trade with somebody, I've never regretted it. And it's just expanded my horizon and opened my world.
I think that's excellent advice because you've been in these situations that you have never been in before. You're baking and you're not a baker. Yeah. You're doing this marvelous cookbook and you did all the text and all the photography.
Yes.
You're doing TV appearances. You're doing online courses. And so what about failure? Do you ever, going back to this pathological competence, as you called it, do you fear failure ever in saying yes to all these things?
So a little bit of personal backstory. I have obsessive compulsive disorder. It's not something that I talk about a lot in my work or publicly, and I was diagnosed at 19, but I've had it my whole life. A lot of my life is dealing with fear, and feel the fear and do it anyway is kind of like my daily mantra. So I'm used to just a low key sort of anxiety about everything, like from walking down the street to my job. So you kind of get used to that, chirpy little, you shouldn't be doing this, you're not getting in it. And if that's sort of just a constant background noise, you're But when you dive into these things for the first time and you really get your hands in and you learn, it's with guitar too, I might be a very fast player doing runs or things like that, but maybe I have a harder time just switching between a G chord and an F chord. And someone would be like, how can you play that fast and you can't change chords? What's wrong? Or how can you bake like this, but you don't know how to crack an egg properly? And I'll learn that. Don't worry about it. Okay.
So I do want to go back to this confidence because I think it's a really important part about taking risks towards your dreams. So did you learn this from childhood? Were you brought up in an environment where you thought, it doesn't even matter if I fail, I can try and I'll be fine?
The world doesn't end when you fail. Failure is annoying, and I definitely, it means, if you're failing, it means that you're learning something new, you're trying something new, you're putting yourself out there, and it means that you are taking steps towards your goal. The trick is to try not to fail the same way twice. Mm-hmm. So if you're failing all the time, but you keep doing the same things, you keep banging your head against the same wall, that's not such a positive thing. But if you're failing because you try, it's like the coyotes. That's a bad example because he never gets to the success part. But yeah, if you're trying new things all the time and pushing yourself, that's the good kind of failure. That's the growth kind of failure. And yeah, it doesn't feel nice when you are trying to do something and it doesn't work out, but you can usually, that one step back leads to 3 or 4 steps forward. And I think that's the case with most creative people. They'll say, that didn't work out, but I saw something in that, and that launched me even farther.
Mm-hmm. Well, certainly your baking and posting of a pie has launched you, would you say, farther than you would have ever imagined when you were first baking pies?
Oh, for sure. Going viral, it's not that there's anything particular. Your life doesn't change. Food doesn't taste different. Things are still basically the same as they were before. But what it does do is it opens doors to new, interesting people and new opportunities. So I developed a friendship with Duff Goldman, who wrote the foreword to my book, and I wouldn't have met him otherwise. And Scott Conant and other like super creative celebrity types who, it's that wonderful thing where you reach out, like Yeardley Smith just followed me, and I'm like, said that she's a big fan of my work, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm a big fan of your work. So there's been so many of those magical moments as a result.
And it seems this other part of this confidence is that you say yes. You just say yes to whatever comes your way.
I can't remember who the quote from, like Lincoln or one of those American politicians, but it went something like, if someone asks you if you can do something, say, yes, I surely can, and then get busy learning how to do it. I'm kind of like I always just assume I can figure it out. Sometimes you say, yeah, no problem, I can do that. And you're like, oh crap, this is way harder than I thought. But so, it has to be underpinned with hard work and dedication and the unglamorous behind the scenes stuff. So I'm not just saying like, say yes to everything. You can take out that appendix.
Yeah.
But like say, yeah, but then go to med school for 8 years and then learn to take out the appendix.
Have you failed at anything that you've ever tried?
I fail all the time. I'm like, it's funny because people see all the successes that I've had, like, your movie won this many awards, or you've gotten on this show, or you've gotten this accolade, but they don't see for every one success, I'll have 3 things that blew up in my face that they never even learned about. But that number has gone from like a 1 in 10 success rate to a 1 in 5 to 1 in 4 to like now it's maybe 1 in 2 things that I try, because you're building on that foundation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's so important to know. Well, we have to take another break already, and but when we come back, I'm going to ask Jessica how life is now and what advice she has for those of us who are too afraid to pursue our dreams when we come back. Welcome back to Bold Leaps. I am here with Jessica Leigh Clark-Bojin, the Pieous. So what is next for the Pieous?
What is next? Well, in keeping with the lifelong learning journey thing, I just launched a series of online courses, and they're doing really great, and that's very exciting. But I never like to be stagnant. I always want to be working on the next thing. So I'm working on a TV series which is in development, which hopefully I'll be able to talk more about soon. I am learning guitar again and getting brushed up on bringing some music back just for fun. And I am learning to write novels right now. So that's a new twist. And of course, keeping up with all the pie stuff and all
those demands.
Good things. Yeah.
What would your novel, can you tell us what your novel might be about?
I can. So it is a what's called a culinary cozy mystery. And it's a fun sort of genre of whodunits that are focused around pie stuff and baking and things like that.
Oh, cool. Well, I can't wait. You'll have to keep me posted on that. What would you say the biggest lesson is that you have learned about taking risks to pursue your dreams?
Biggest lesson, definitely take every opportunity you have to learn something new. Try to surround yourself with fascinating people who are different than you are and learn from them. Failure is not the end of the world. It can help you grow, and always have a plan on top of that.
A business plan.
Business plan, yes.
Like your dad said.
Yeah. Be creative, take the leap, do the scary thing, but also, have a little grounding underneath.
And your mom, be messy, make a mess.
Make a mess. Yes, I'm very good at that. This is not a normal state, right?
I was going to say, this is a very clean kitchen.
I cleaned up for you.
But that's an important part of it, isn't it? Making a mess. Like, what does that mean to you, make a mess?
Oftentimes these days, it means literally make a mess. That's another thing I'm working on, developing a type of pastry clay that you can make sculptural 3D element pies with. And it's very physically messy, but mostly it's about not worrying about the tidiness of your universe, of your relationships, of everything around you while you're doing the exploring. Do the exploring, throw yourself out there, have some fun. And then once you have the experience, go back and start cleaning up the loose ends and looking at what you've actually got.
That actually gives me chills. That's excellent advice. And what about, this is the last question, what about advice for people who are too afraid to pursue their dreams? Because most of us, we won't even start. We won't even start playing guitar. We won't even, post a pie. We won't even post a painting. What would you say to people who are too afraid to pursue their dreams?
I'm not going to tell somebody who is a, school teacher to quit their job and, just become an artist overnight or something like that. You still got to pay your bills. But there are baby steps. There are ways to get into these things and explore that and see if it's something that you actually love. And a lot of it starts with community. Find the people out there who are doing the things that you want to do. See if you can buy them a cup of coffee. See if you can join these little artist collectives. If one doesn't exist in your community, see if you can make one. And surrounding yourself with other people who have similar goals and ambitions can really help allay those sort of imposter syndrome things and give you the confidence to at least start to try. Because maybe your relatives are like, I don't really see that for you, or I'm not sure if that's right. If you don't have the people around you right now who are going to be encouraging, find the people that are encouraging. Find your tribe. They're out there.
That's a really good point. And you found a lot of people in the fencing.
Yes. Fencing is a fascinating world where so many, it's about sword fighting, it's about exercise, it's about fun, it's about history, but so many of the people in the fencing club are just fascinating people. They're artists, they're lawyers, they're doctors, they're, it's not the cheapest sport because you have to buy all the Kevlar and the swords and things like that. So they tend to be people who are, have a certain amount of success in their life and they want to try something new. And yeah, it's a great way to meet like-minded weirdos.
Well, Jessica, thank you so much for being on the Boldleaps show and for sharing all of your bold leaps with us. You're absolutely magnificent and creative and brilliant. And thank you for all the beauty that you bring into the world. And you're going to inspire so many people with your story. So thank you so much for sharing your story so openly.
Thank you so much for having me. Anytime.
Well, that's it for another episode of Bold Leaps. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to YouTube for more inspiring episodes and tell us your bold leaps in the comments. Special thanks to Fresh Street Market, and remember, every step you take is a step toward your dreams.